Landworkers Alliance, this food sovereignty movement, the movement that you're all a part of, is a part of a huge global movement that's fighting not only for our food and the right for everyone to have access to healthy, affordable food, but also fighting for our world to be held as a common treasury for all of us to look after in a way that's fair and just and equitable and sustainable for not only everyone on the planet, the birds, the bees, the trees, the air, all of it, but future generations to come. Before 1950, most of the planet was fed through localized food systems, and still today, the majority of global food security comes through small-scale farmers feeding their local communities across the planet. Yet it's one of the most marginalized voices this entire planet has when you look at the international forums and the politics that goes on. Yet it's the people that are sustaining the population every day, and the people that are adapting to climate change, and the people that are solving the crises that we have and how we restructure society on the ground by doing these solutions in the ways that are come up with from their knowledge, from their experience, from their communities. Yet those are the people that are denied the resources, denied the political power, and denied the right to be able to organize, to be able to build those solutions on a mass global scale that we need. This is where this organizing that we're doing comes in. This is why this organizing is so important. Basic human rights are what governments are supposed to be protecting, and they're supposed to be standing for. And, progressively since the 1950s, all over the planet, because of the World Trade Organization, because of the multinational corporations removing policies, because of trade policies based on free trade in the market, because of the onset of the incessant push towards global capitalism to be the way to solve all our basic human needs, those protections have been removed. And when we say we're marching for the right to food, it's saying that we're asking our government to take the right to food seriously, to go back to a framework where government is there to protect basic human needs, and communities should be at the heart of those basic human needs. The market does not deliver, the market does not solve, the market has failed. With the right to food, government has not only the responsibility, but the moral duty to make sure the right policies are in place to protect the most important producers in our society, the farm workers who are producing the food that we need to eat, and protecting the ability of everyone to have access to all the good, healthy, affordable, sustainably produced food that they need, no matter where they live or how much money they have. That is an absolute basic human right, and they have failed to do that by trying to do it through the market. The trajectory of economic growth is not the way to solve it. Going back to basics and understanding that governance is about making sure everyone has their basic human rights covered and that we need to have the right policies in place is the way to solve that. And the only way we do that is organizing collectively as social movements to demand the right to food.
I've got a message for Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. That they will fail to do their key job. Their kind of one job. Their job is to keep us healthy, safe, ensure our well-being, and to contribute to the well-being of communities globally. They will fail in that if they do the wrong thing by food, and by food workers, and by farmers, and by the bees, and the worms, by the soil, by the ecosystem on we absolutely depend. They will fail. And they will fail if they do a deal with Trump that includes lower food standards. They will fail if they do not provide the right budget for farmers and growers to get into the agroecological transition we absolutely need. And they will fail if they do not curb the incredibly extractive, harmful supply chain and the hedge funds that manage to make huge profits from food commodities globally. They will fail if they do not curb those excesses and if they do not regulate the supply chain to treat farmers and growers fairly so those farmers and growers can then treat the land, their animals and their workers fairly. And they will fail if they do not curb junk food marketing and advertising, which is killing us.
Growing food has become a complicated bureaucratic nightmare. The land is hidden, permissions are patchy, growing together is actually now seen as an afterthought instead of a real solution. So we need new rules. We need a new social contract. And that's what the right to grow is calling for. clear public maps of land available to communities, no more endless permissions, but a right to grow embedded in policy, and more trust in people, the real makers of change.
We're not here today to beg for scraps. We're here to demand justice for every single agricultural worker who has been left behind in a food system that prioritises supermarket profits instead of those who toil in the soil. We have a clear message. We want them to reopen the SFI, expand the nature-friendly farming budget, and truly explore what a guaranteed cash payment to all agricultural workers would look like in the form of a basic income. I want to live in a world where agroecological produce is the standard. I want to live in a world where farmers' markets fill every town square. I want to live in a world where anyone, regardless of their background, has the resource to learn how to grow or raise livestock and be a part of the land. I want to live in a world where we see an abundance of diverse crops and an abundance of diverse people growing them. The truth is, farmers carry enormous risk, and the climate crisis is only going to accelerate, so that risk will grow. And, diseases, pests, wild weather, droughts, policy changes, we all know that a bad season can break a business. Farming is a public service without the social or financial recognition of such. We wouldn't ask our politicians to work without financial security, so why do we ask that of our farmers? We know a basic income for farmers wouldn't fix everything. We still need to tackle supermarket dominance, raise wages, share land, and change the whole culture around food and farming. But a basic income for farmers would be a foundational step, a stabiliser, and a way to support our agricultural workers to not just survive, but thrive. Because if we want to strengthen our food system, we have to start with those who are producing our food. And if we want food security, all agriculture workers need to be financially secure.
Why are you here today? I'm here today for a few different reasons. I'm a trainee with Growing Communities, which is a community-focused foods initiative trying to supply the people of East London, for the most part, with organic or agroecologically grown food. So I'm learning how to grow food using those principles, and I think the food industry is a place where so many of the world's problems intersect. There's massive human rights issues and obviously environmental abuse issues. I think it's the people on the ground who are working the land who can provide the solutions, and so we're demanding that our government pay attention to us, the people who are working the land, and support us to solve problems. And I'm just really excited to be entering this movement and to be here with everybody today.
To stop the food monopoly, take back control of our food system. I'm here to support farmers as a farmer myself in getting land justice and to end the food monopoly by big global food corporations, and most as well to link with the struggle of farmers across the world, particularly in Palestine.
I've been thinking for many years and working for many years to try and protect the rights of people in many countries, indigenous people who love the land and people who want to produce food. I regularly go to farmers' markets. So I'm here to support this movement, and I'm just very sad to see what a long way we still have to go in order to really change the food system and change it so that it's not just based on what corporations want to sell us, but on what people produce and share with each other.
Systematic agriculture, large monoculture plantations are harming the planet. They're warming the planet, they're prone to devastating diseases, and therefore they need chemical protection, whereas small holdings with a lot of biodiversity by the very nature both cool the planet, give us better food, and improve the ecology and of course human well-being in a general sense, because being around healthy vegetation is a very healthy thing for human beings. But we must end systematic monoculture industrial corporate plantations. They have to stop because they're destroying this planet.
I'm here with Land in Our Names, which is a racial justice and reparations organisation, and I'm here because I support the right for more people to grow, for the people who have more land to contribute to land sharing or land reparations if possible, particularly for black and people of colour living in inner city areas.
Across the world, from peasant movements in Latin America to farmers and farm workers unions across Africa and Asia, communities are fighting for food sovereignty. They remind us who works, who eats, and who makes the food we eat. Justice for all food workers. Power back into the hands of those who grow, distribute, and cook our food, not those who exploit it for profit. And we call for legal accountability for UK supermarkets and corporations, an end to exploitative trade deals that sacrifice workers for profit, and a legally enshrined right to food. So today, as we stand here in London, in the belly of the beast, let's say it loud. We will not let our food, our land, our lives be stolen by the same forces that starve the world. We stand in solidarity, from the fields to the food banks, from Morocco to Manchester, from Laos to London. Food is a right, land is a right, dignity is a right. Power in our hands, food in our hands, the future in our hands. Thank you.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be gathered with all of you today. But I am concerned that petitioning this government may be futile. This government, a Labour government, has no mandate to institute equitable access to land and food. Their election campaign was the same empty policies of a political class that gave up naming systemic inequality of access to wealth 3 decades ago. They promised us growth, that twisted euphemism, that production is good no matter what is produced, that offers jobs, not livelihoods, that reduces citizens to consumers. It is the same twisted ethic that values land solely for profit, regardless of the cost. It's the same twisted ethic that saw settler colonists spread across the globe to precipitate social and ecological collapse simply so that they could grow commodity crops for sale on the global market. And at what cost? At the cost of the erasure of indigenous ways of life that came before. At the cost of the organic ties that bind us in our connection to land through shared practice. At the cost of global ecologies still hemorrhaging abundance and diversity day by day. What do they promise us? Development. 1.5 million housing units to be built largely on the so-called grey belt. Let people back on the land. Instead of easing the passage of profit-seeking developers through planning, ease the passage of agroecological communities to cultivate a true prosperity for all. I challenge this government to let us show them what the true health-promoting abundant growth looks like. And if they don't, perhaps it's time to raise the diggers' standard and occupy the land.
I used to work for DEFRA, not in that building, in Reading in the Rural Payments Agency. I used to pay farmers subsidies. My job was to find missing payments in the system. And every day I would get phone calls from farmers at breaking point. So many times I would listen to stories of financial hardship, of how they just didn't understand the changing government system, that they just wanted to get out. And that really made an impact on me. And then just after that, I started to volunteer at my university's Museum of Rural Life, where my job was to archive photos from pre-World War II, so before the Green Revolution. And the stark difference in kind of what you saw in the faces of those people, the pride of producing life-giving food, of the community, of the festivals, it was such a difference compared to what I was hearing working at DEFRA. What we need is a government that actually recognises that food needs to be fair, needs to be nutritious and just. Farmers are 3 times more likely to commit suicide than the national average. It's an absolute scandal. And when we really think about it, food is such an essential part of everything that we do, everything that our society is based around. But yet, we value farmers and land workers so little. We need to build a system where land workers are seen and held in as much high regard as the doctors who cure us from illness and teachers who give us the knowledge so that we can succeed in life. If we all start working together, we can make sure that the next National Food Strategy actually does talk about the issues of food sovereignty, land justice, justice for land workers, and so that in the future we can have a healthy food system where people are thriving instead of at the moment where people are literally dying. Thank you very much.